This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Sahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 344 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about how Dortmund took the lead in the Champions League Group F, and we will preview the Bundesliga Topspiel, second weather's first, Dortmund against Bayern. For all that and more joins me Matthias Zug. Once again, hello Matthias, how are you doing?
Hello, Stefan. Well, I had some coffee, so I'm awake now. But no, things are going well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you actually cannot hear my eye bags on this podcast because we have been up a couple too many nights trying to figure out who is going to be the next president of the United States, like many other people, even though it was very clear that you could go to bed on election night because there were not going to be any results. But yeah, anxiously awaiting, but the good news is that if we don't like the scoreline after the Bayern game, I've already called Rudy Giuliani because he is in Philadelphia right now and he's gonna fix that for us.
Sorry, I have a brief announcement to make. I believe Dortmund have won the Bundesliga. In my eyes, I think we've already won, and we should just stop all games now.
Yeah,
stop counting the goals.
Like I said, Rudy will tuck it away for us, the results. So I'm very confident that we have won and we will win, and by the time everything is counted, we will be on top, and also we're gonna stop counting. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, after opening away to Lazio and burning 3-1 there, Dortmund now are back on top in Group F, have 6 points to their name, and Brügge and Lazio are behind. Lazio have 5 points, Brügge have 4, and obviously Russian champion Zenit St. Petersburg have only 1 point to their name right now. So Matthias, from the Champions League perspective, this reads rather well, especially considering that the away game in Rome was probably the toughest fixture of the 6 group matches. What do you make of this 3-0 win where Dortmund took care of business rather sooner than later?
Well, it was nice to see yet another set-piece goal. I think that's just a theme we keep carrying on. It was great to see, and I'm just focusing on the first half now because I literally almost fell asleep in the second half. But it's great to see Mahmoud Dahoud playing. I'll be honest, he's playing great right now. And the assist he gave for Haaland's third goal, obviously, or the pre-assist, the hockey assist, that went to Meunier and then over to Haaland, that pass was amazing. It was fantastic. So all praise Mahmoud Dahoud, the savior of Borussia Dortmund. But as far as the way the group is playing, I mean, you can kind of tell. I mean, it's frustrating that Dortmund laid the egg they did in Rome because this Lazio side, in my opinion, isn't that great. So it's frustrating, but given the way the results have gone now for Lazio with the draws against Brügge and St. Petersburg, you know, things are looking good for Dortmund. Dortmund are clearly in the driver's seat right now. And getting the win against Brügge relieved some of the pressure, for now at least.
Yeah, I mean, if Dortmund win the next 2 home games against Brügge and Lazio, I think this is pretty much in the bag now, because then they have 12 points. And I don't know the arithmetics too well yet, but I think that Dortmund can probably close it out with the next 2 wins. So, yeah. It's going well. I don't think anyone really doubted that Dortmund was going to prevail, at least in the top 2 bracket. But obviously, you do want to have the top spots, especially in that group where I think Dortmund were always favorites. And it's kind of nice after all these years where Dortmund had to play Real Madrid and Barcelona and so on and so forth, that this is finally an easy group for the Black and Yellows, and they can
I think you're not alone in that. When I saw the team sheet come out and then, the graphics, I'm like, no, they got that wrong. Look at those idiots. Delaney and Witsel. That's a totally different position. And then they lined up and played and went, crap. But it worked out. He actually didn't perform that badly. I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was surprised. I don't think Witsel is an option at center back for the long run, but in occasional matches like this against a side that, yes, Club Brugge had a few opportunities, but not that many. Their undoing wasn't their attack. Let's put it that way. It worked out. I felt that Akanji worked a little bit more, which makes sense because he is the natural backline leader again now that Hummels is out right now. And obviously he's the only trained central defender left in the squad that can actually play. So I was shocked by it because I think we floated that on an episode a few weeks ago and we were all like, ha ha ha, no. And I thought he did pretty well, actually. I can't think of many big mistakes. There wasn't many options for him to pass it backwards in the first half, so that was a little different for him. But overall, I thought Witsel did a pretty good job.
A little passive aggressiveness.
That's not passive aggressiveness. It's good-natured ribbing.
Yeah. Anywho, I think they did rather well. I would say defensively they looked a little concerning in the beginning when Bruges had a couple of crosses into the box, where I think Hazard, for example, had a shot to block, and there were a couple of saves that Roman Bürki had to make in this game. So as predicted, Brügge was always going to be a bit of a more attacking test for Dortmund's defense than the previous 3 games. And I think Dortmund, they're quite okay with it. I mean, Club Bruges, and I'm just going to alternate between Bruges and Brügge, have the expected goals of 1.2, and they had a similar amount of shots as Dortmund. They both had 12 shots. Bruges had 4 on target to Dortmund 6 on target. I think the attacking output from Bruges was pretty okay. I mean, they had a couple of good counterattacks. They have obviously some pace up front. I thought Emmanuel Dennis had a good game, even though he didn't score. But from the runs he made against Dortmund's backline and, sometimes drifting out wide, I think that sort of had tee up a couple of attacks for the Belgium side. So from that standpoint, I don't think they could be too unhappy. And as you said, Bruges then in the end more problems with their defensive prowess, which was kind of always obvious since Dortmund have all this attacking prowess, and since Bruges do not have, I don't think they really have it in them to play this ultra defensive as we've seen of Lazio at many stages over that game, and Zenit, of course. I mean, I think they can play an ultra defensive low block, but I don't think it's going to be as successful, is what I'm trying to say. I think pretty much every team can do it, but with varying success. So and obviously for Dortmund, a very positive game where they managed to evade the opponent's pressing quite well. I think their ball circulation and their recycling of possession was pretty good. And once again, obviously a shout out to Mahmoud Dahoud, because I think when Dortmund are in possession, that he gives this Dortmund team a lot of groove right now, that he manages to distribute the ball quite well, very intelligently, and obviously keeps the pace up. So apart from the really magnificent pass, which I think, was it the 3-0 in the end, or was it the 2-0? I don't exactly.
It was the 3.
Yeah. So that was obviously a dream pass, and just a very nice run from Meunier too. But also a little bit at fault here are Bruges, because when they are going to analyze this, you need to put some pressure on Dahoud in this situation. So I feel like other teams in the future will maybe not give Dahoud, I don't know, half a minute to pick out a pass, sort of wait for your teammate to make the run and then, fake the pass and then go through with it, because he had a little flinch first. So to time it right, and Bruges just didn't put any pressure on him at all. So that's room for improvement for the Belgium side, obviously. But I'm very happy. And of course, as you already said, Manuel Akanji, I think right now deserves heck a lot of praise, just because he obviously is not flawless. Hardly any defender is, and I think very early in the beginning he sort of missed the ball, and it could have gotten a little hairy. But apart from that, I think right now he is really back in full stride. Maybe his hip injury isn't really bothering him anymore. I'm not entirely sure if it's just a patch of good form, or something that we can expect more permanently. I hope so. But right now he is playing with a lot of confidence, and has his physical prowess very intelligently, likes to go for the ball. All these attributes that you would expect from a Dortmund center back, he's pretty much fulfilling right now. And what obviously helps, and that is, I think, something that Lucien Favre also credited, is that the entire team right now is doing a very good job defensively. I mean, we have talked about the 8 clean sheets now that Dortmund have, 4 on the bounce out of 11 games. That is also down to players like Haaland defending, players like Reina and Hazard, or Sancho even, who is, I think, maturing a little bit more in that department, that he's running back more now than maybe even like the same time last season. So collectively, I think Dortmund are doing a really terrific job to defend, and I think that really makes it life much easier for Manuel Akanji, or now, of course, Axel Witsel, who had to slot in and I think did quite well. Anything to add?
Well, no, I mean, that's something that has been talked about now recently, is just Dortmund's defensive stability. I expected Brügge to make life difficult for Dortmund at times. They do like to attack. They showed that. They were just very naive defensively. I mean, their central defenders were far too often, positioned far too far apart. Too many farts there.
How many farts are you going to say?
So, and obviously when you have players that can play the types of passes Dortmund can, that have the on the ball, off the ball movement, especially a Haaland, you're just asking for trouble. And I wasn't worried about Dortmund winning it. I didn't expect a clean sheet. And then, of course, the second half happened. And, I mean, Dortmund, they really turned it down. Brügge had a few shots, but no major chances, and Brügge started tiring as well. And it's just it's like the game is just like, all right, well, let's just get this over with. That's the feeling I got, and maybe that's also because I was half asleep. But the level of excitement in the second half wasn't quite that high.
No, which I think is a good thing right now. I don't need to be thrilled. Let's say I want this team to get the results they need, and take care of business. I mean, like I said, it's I think 7 games within 22 days. This is not the time where you need to blow out Bruges. I don't know, 8-0, 9-0, just for the fun of it. I think it's actually quite smart to tone things down and pass the ball around a little bit. I mean, Dortmund obviously had a couple more chances on the break and didn't really do as well as they could have. I mean, this is almost a given for this Dortmund team that there will always be a couple of opportunities that go begging where they just have a mistimed pass or something. But it's not a game where I would find too many criticisms, to be honest. And I think that sets Dortmund also up perfectly for the game against Bayern because you took care of things after 32 minutes when you were 3-0 up, and Lucien Favre got to rotate a little bit. I think this is maybe the one thing that he could have done better, because I think the first substitution was Julian Brandt for Marco Reus in the 72nd minute. I actually would have taken off Haaland probably around after 60 minutes by the latest. And Bellingham came on for Delaney. And then in the 77th minute, we had Pasla coming on for Reina and Ranier and Matteo Morey, who then made his Champions League debut. But it was pretty much garbage time then, and not too many things to take away from these final minutes, to be honest. So I think this is maybe the only criticism I would lay at Favre's feet, that he could have pulled the trigger a little sooner on those substitutions. But otherwise a fairly good night for the Black and Yellows. And I think with that we can move on to the game against Bayern Munich. We should start with a very simple question. Matthias, who of the Bayern team has the most punchable face?
It's hard to not pick Kimmich at this point. I'd say it's usually a toss-up between Kimmich and Müller, and maybe a little bit Lewandowski, but it tends to be Kimmich. Müller's you just want to punch him sometimes, but Kimmich has that punchable face. And what makes it more frustrating is that he's also an extraordinarily good player. No, it would be Kimmich for me, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. You just want to whack this guy as soon as you see him, all angry and fired up over nothing, basically. But this is pretty much been the guy that's been the biggest thorn in Dortmund's sides in the recent games. I mean, he got the 1-0 goal that I don't want to say decided the title race last season, but was obviously a big blow for Dortmund. And then he also grabbed the winner in Super Cup. But I think if we talk about punchable faces, obviously I'm not just here to demean Bayern players, not just. I think if we would ask the same question, a Bayern fan or a Schalke fan, I think they would straightforwardly talk about Erling Haaland, because I can see how his face looks a little punchable from the other side. And I think this is a very good thing when I see, Schalke Twitter or so after 5 minutes of him playing in Derby or so, or vent about him and how much they hate him. I think going into this game, he is a very good asset to have, and someone who will, like Kimmich, fight like hell in this game and bring that grit and determination. And I think we've already seen it in the Super Cup that his presence can really help. And so I'm very looking forward to him again now with a bit more time pass and a bit more ability to gel with the rest of this team to see what he can do against this Bayern side, which is obviously flying high. They're top of the table, level on points with Dortmund. They just thumped FC Salzburg 6-2 away. They only have one loss in the Bundesliga so far, against Hoffenheim, a 4-1 loss. But even though they are the highest ranked team in the 538 Soccer Power Index and whatnot, I still think they are there for the taking if Dortmund have a good game. And let's just hear real quick what Haaland had to say after the Bruges game ahead of the Bayern game.
We have to go out and attack the match and keep on doing that we did in periods against them in the Super Cup. And we have to go out and play and be brave, and I think it will be an interesting game.
Haaland basically also alluded to the Super Cup. Do you think this is the blueprint that Dortmund will try to apply, and where they will not maybe just try to fight for it once they're 2 goals down, but maybe from the get-go?
Well, you'll have to do it from the get-go. I mean, Dortmund have now proven that trying to play passively against Bayern will only lead to a Bayern victory. There's not a draw. You're not drawing against this Bayern side if you decide to play passively. And the problem is you're not playing to your own strengths, and that's what you have to focus on. If you press Bayern, if you then, yes, you also have to play with very few mistakes. But if you do those things, then you can definitely beat them. It's not a case where I say Dortmund have to have a brilliant game, Bayern have to have a bad game to beat Bayern. No, I think if Bayern play the way Bayern play, and Dortmund play as well as Dortmund is capable, then absolutely Dortmund have a chance of winning this game. I don't think they're going to blow them away, but I do think they can score goals, and I do think they can get points off Bayern if they don't play chicken shit football, which they have absolutely done in the past. If they come out with that type of mentality in the first half, I don't know if they're going to be able to switch it around in the second half like they did in the Super Cup, where, the pressure isn't really that high. So I would like to see a more consistent level of pressing and pressure. I don't think you can do it for all 90 minutes. I think you just can't physically maintain it. But beyond that, mix and match a little bit to just switch up the tempo is something that'll definitely help. If you're pushing too high, Bayern will kill you on the counterattack eventually. I mean, all it takes is Manuel Neuer, who's one of the best goalkeeping distributors of the ball, to launch it forward, and then you've got such immense pace up there with guys like Leroy Sané or Serge Gnabry that or Kingsley Coman, you're just asking for trouble at that point. So I think more of second half Super Cup and less of first half, but I don't think you can just go all out press. You're just asking for trouble then.
Yeah, I mean, if we take the 1-0 loss at the Westfalenstadion from last season, that was a game which I thought was a bit cagey because Bayern were also not all out pressing as they so often are. I think they were a bit more careful because obviously when Bayern go to the Westfalenstadion, they respect this style a little bit more, and Dortmund's home advantage is certainly telling. I think they won the last 2 out of the last 3 at home. So this is obviously a stat that should give Dortmund fans a lot of hope. And so I don't think that Dortmund need to press Bayern for the entire game. But I think this Bayern team can be forced into mistakes, and Dortmund have shown this season that if the opponent messes up and there's a transition moment and they can counter, that they are very ruthless and very lethal. So I think this is why Mahmoud Dahoud right now is probably one of my first names on the team sheet, just because of his pressing capability and the way he can accelerate these kinds of situations. So I mean, Dahoud has started again before against Bayern and hasn't looked all that great, but right now in this particular form, I think it's a no-brainer. But the question is obviously in this midfield battle where you will face Kimmich and Goretzka, who will pair up with him? Is it going to be Witsel? Is it going to be Bellingham? And is it or is it going to be Delaney? And obviously that question will also answer maybe in part by the fact whether Mats Hummels can play or not. So Matthias, who would you pick for that particular midfield battle, which will probably be as so often the case in these games, very deciding?
Well, I think you kind of have to go with Delaney and Dahoud. If you look at form and what you're looking for in that position, I wouldn't want to play Bellingham in that. I just think like you're asking for trouble at this point. Axel Witsel, he's played against Bayern a few times. He's underwhelmed against Bayern every single time. I just feel like you have to go with the form players, and those are Delaney and Dahoud. It's weird to say that sentence out loud, but that's who I believe you need to go with at this point. And given the 5 substitutions, you can always switch it up. If you notice that someone's getting overrun, I mean, take them off after 20 minutes if you need to. You've got plenty of subs. But I would go with Delaney and Dahoud to start with.
Yeah, I agree. You know, this is probably where Dortmund need also that ball winning capability, because like I said, Bayern need to be forced into mistakes, and you need that aggression. And I think especially with Julian Brandt, who I expect to start as a number 10, I think Favre will stick to the 4-2-3-1. You need that hard-working energy. Obviously, I don't know if Favre goes down the other road and starts with Royce. Who knows? But I would actually save Royce for the last half hour or so, because with Royce's pressing, and if the game is still tight, then he can also excel exactly in that department. The only thing that's a bit annoying to me is that Haaland will have to play the full 90 minutes on this high energy game, because Dortmund don't really have a replacement for him. And taking him off, as the Super Cup has shown, sort of also, you know, stopping your entire attack, because a lot of Dortmund's attacking football hinges on him. And what I find very interesting is that Dortmund players in post-game interviews, when they're asked about Haaland, that they always highlight his, back to goal, hold up play that he has right now. And I think Torgen Hazard highlighted it after the Brügge game, where he said that it's very important, especially to start, and especially against this Bayern side, this will be absolutely crucial. And I really hope that Haaland can, like Lewandowski will very likely do on the other side, hold the ball for several seconds, and I think that could eradicate a lot of Bayern dominance when you can avoid them cutting you off right away. Then Bayern can be teased a little, and Dortmund, I think, right now are very good at recycling possession, whether you sort of keep the ball for a bit longer or you try to attack quickly. I think Dortmund have the mojo right now where things are clicking. Obviously, it's always a bit of a different thing to play against Bayern than to play against the teams that Dortmund have played in the previous 4 games. But I think this team is ready to play on the high level, which obviously they still have to show. But that's at least my expectation. Now, obviously, a lot also hinges on whether Mats Hummels is fit or not. He tweeted, I think, on Wednesday in jest on Tuesday that he won't make the Brügge game, but he is also not fast enough for hamstring injury, and thus he could make it. I think it's a game time decision at this stage. I also, if you have 5 substitutions, you might risk it and say, okay, if it doesn't work, you play 20 minutes and we'll put someone else in, which is obviously not ideal, but Hummels is a very important player, and he has been playing on a world-class level for the last months, so missing him would obviously be a massive blow. Matthias, how do you think the dynamic changes with or without Hummels?
Well, it's a completely different side. As far as confidence goes from the back, I think if Hummels is playing, Bayern will be reticent to press too high too often, just because of Hummels' defense-splitting passes that he can play, and given the pace of Dortmund's attackers, that's a clear threat. If Hummels isn't playing, if I was Hansi Flick, I would press the ever-living crap out of Dortmund's backline at that point, because you don't have a Hummels that can play that pass. Yeah, there may be a lucky punch type pass occasionally from Akanji, but other than that, I mean, Witzel isn't going to do it. Delaney's not going to do it. Piszczek wouldn't do it. So it completely changes the way that Bayern will play against Dortmund, in my opinion, with or without Mats Hummels. And of course, it'll change the confidence. I think if they press a makeshift center back pairing where only one guy is a true center back, it'll shake the confidence of the entire back line, including the keeper, and that's when mistakes will happen. So Hummels is crucial. If Hummels plays, I think Dortmund have every chance of winning it. If Hummels doesn't play, I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think Dortmund have any chance in winning this game.
Yeah, I think this is probably a very honest assessment, just because he is making Dortmund so much better. Now that we built him up so much, he's probably making a crucial mistake or whatever. But no, in all honesty, I believe the same. That being said, if Dortmund pull out a draw, this is already a good result against this Bayern team who really has played on such a high level the entire time. Now, obviously, I expect them to obviously play with Neuer in goal and then have Boateng and Alaba as a central defense pairing. I mean, Süle had another, like Serge Gnabry had a false positive COVID test, so he'll be available. I don't know if he'll play or not. Pavard and Hernandez will probably make the fullback positions just because and Alphonso Davies is still out injured. There were a couple of question marks behind Goretzka, but I think he is fine. He is trained, and obviously then they have Kimmich next to him, and then really the question is, do you play Gnabry? Do you play Sané? Do you play Coman? And obviously Müller and Lewandowski are also set. So this Bayern team is pretty, they have gelled quite a bit under Hansi Flick, and usually they play with a very high line, and many teams, including Spartak Moscow recently, and obviously FC Salzburg, have shown that you can really hurt them on the counterattack. So I'm really intrigued how Bayern will approach this game, whether they will press Dortmund high or not, or whether they will play more on the careful side than they did in the last Bundesliga match. So yeah, it's going to be also very interesting, Matthias, the level of fatigue after this haul of games. Who still has more fitness and fresher legs and fresher minds. I think that will make a big difference, because the Super Cup match was very chaotic already, and you could see Bayern's fatigue here and there a little bit, and Dortmund obviously had some too. But I think that circumstance actually heightens Dortmund's chances to win this little. What do you think? Because I think if both teams are super fresh playing against each other, Bayern have the edge because they're athletically a bit fitter.
Yeah, Bayern have an extra day rest. Can't forget that. I think that at this point does make a difference, especially given the way they like to play. They need the extra day rest over Dortmund, who then went a little bit more a lot more conservative in the second half against Brügge, and really didn't overexert themselves in the previous matches too much. Bielefeld and Schalke, and they were kind of just walks in the park to a degree. So I think it actually plays in Dortmund's favor in that sense that they didn't have to exert themselves to get these very crucial results. So the extra day rest for Bayern, yeah, that's great. You'd rather have it than not have it. I at this point, I don't see a huge physical advantage, more just a personnel advantage, because of course Bayern have more options in central defense, whereas Dortmund really have none. I just can't get past that lineup decision there.
Yeah, it's really a shame that Hummels picked up this pull or knock or whatever it was to his hamstring during the Bielefeld game. That really feels unnecessary, and obviously could sway things in a very bad way for Dortmund. But that all being said, I'm oddly confident about this one, even though looking at how strong Bayern are right now, you really shouldn't be all too confident, because they could absolutely steamroll Dortmund, as they have shown many times in the past. But I don't know. I think Bayern will bring their A game, but I also think that Dortmund are up for it right now. And I'm also very intrigued how Dortmund will fare playing the back four instead of the back five that they often have. I mean, Emre Can is still out, and he won't make this game most likely. So it's definitely going to be a back four. as far as I'm concerned. So I'm really intrigued what Dortmund has to show attacking wise, whether we'll see Jadon Sancho masterclass, whether Marco Reus shows up for this game, scores a couple, how Gio Reyna will hold off the likes of Kimmich and such, because he has shown it against Brügge too, that his physical shape has helped him to not be wrestled off the ball quite easily. I think this will really help against Bayern too. So I'm expecting a couple moves from Reyna. You obviously have the workhorse that is Thorgan Hazard, who made his first start in Belgium since his injury. So there are many things to be excited about, but really what Dortmund need is a good game from Julian Brandt. I mean, he is so topsy-turvy and so streaky, but he can really decide this game all by himself if he turns up. So this is where my big hope lies on. And otherwise, who knows? Maybe Dortmund will score a couple more set pieces. What do you think, Matthias? How and where Dortmund's goals will come from against this Bayern side? Do you think it's mostly going to be counterattacks and then maybe resulting set pieces? Or do you think it's going to be actually spells of dominance here and there where Dortmund then can convert that into scoring opportunities?
I think Dortmund's only hope is counterattacks. I don't see Dortmund dominating Bayern. I don't think Favre is going to set out to try to dominate Bayern. So I think it's going to be a counterattack situation, whether it's a direct from a counterattack or, like you said, maybe from a set piece, given how Dortmund have scored. However, the goals they have scored from set pieces were also, for the most part, to say poorly defended, I think is an understatement. I don't see Dortmund scoring from a set piece unless it's like a direct free kick. So I'm going to go more heavily on counterattacks.
Yeah, I think Dortmund are very well set up for that. So, especially with Haaland. In the Super Cup, I think he had a couple moments against Manuel Neuer one-on-one where he could have done better. I really hope that he improves in that scenario, because Dortmund will really use it. And then obviously there's a big question, Matthias, how will Dortmund take revenge for that shitty VAR call where they definitely should have had a penalty in the last Bundesliga game when the ball clearly and obviously touched Jerome Boateng's moving arm or elbow.
Well, I was in a good mood, Stefan, so thank you for that. I don't know. I mean, we also can't forget there's not going to be a crowd present, so there's no home field advantage to be had for any side right now in the Bundesliga. As far as Bayern Dusel when it comes to VAR, of course, that's a good possibility that will crop up again. I hope it doesn't, but a lifelong of watching the Bundesliga is I kind of expect something like that will crop up. But I'm hopeful it won't come down to that.
Every time I'm hopeful that, be it Aubameyang or someone in the past, one of those quick strikers will just arrive quicker to a ball than Manuel Neuer, and that Neuer gets sent off finally. That would be a nice scenario where I could say, okay, things do even out, even though it's not the wrong call from a referee. But Neuer being sent off would be kind of nice when he rushes out of goal and is just this half a step too late. That would be really a cool thing to happen. So this is something I'm always rooting for. And I mean, these situations where Neuer really makes a close call almost happen every Dortmund Bayern game. So why not make this the game? I don't know. I think this is a good scenario to happen and to root and hope for. Otherwise, I mean, I still remember when Jens Lehmann got sent off and Jan Koller had to go and goal. I could hope for a similar scenario just the other way around, but you're right. Obviously, things are a little different without any fans in the stands, which is obviously a great shame, and maybe gives Bayern a little long-term advantage if fans are in the reverse fixture. But who knows what will happen until then. But yeah, I think Dortmund really need to not lose this game just because they are level on points with Bayern, and so often the 6-point or 12-point swing you get if you lose both games against Bayern in one season are pretty much insurmountable. So if you want to have realistic title hopes, you just cannot take an L. I think that's pretty much a given. So yeah, do you have any more points that you want to make? Because even though this is a game where a lot of tactical stuff will happen, I don't think I can accurately preview anything because it's so eclectic in the sense that Bayern always treat Dortmund in a very special way, in the sense that they usually don't play against them like they play against other opponents.
Yeah, I agree, and I maintain my position that everything will hinge upon Mats Hummels. Everything. Nothing else matters except that one position in it, and that's why I will give you 2 different predictions depending on if he does or doesn't play.
All right, go ahead.
So, if we say Mats Hummels will play, I think we will have a repeat of the scoreline of the Super Cup minus the screw up at the end. So I believe in a 2-all. If Mats Hummels doesn't play, I think Bayern run away with it 4-0, easy evening victory for them.
Oh, that's very interesting. But I think I concur on the part that when Dortmund are without Hummels, they'll probably lose 4-0 or 4-1. But I think with Hummels, they're actually going to edge it out and win 3-2. I think that's a good scoreline and a realistic scoreline because this game can be full of goals. So 5 goals with Dortmund having the better end is my Dortmund plus Hummels prediction. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I really hope that Dortmund can create some excitement in the Bundesliga, because even if they will only be 3 points behind after this, if it's going to be a decisive blowout and Dortmund look like chumps, then yeah, this is not going to be good for the overall narrative of the Bundesliga title race, etc. So just want to avoid that. But yes, I think now that we've predicted this game, we can lean back and look forward to the outcome and then come back and talk about it. So in the meantime, please tell our listeners how to follow you on Twitter.
Well, you can find me at Matthias Suk, even though this week I'm a little quiet on Twitter just because, you know, it's election week and there's a lot of crazies out there, Stefan.
Yeah, you don't want to go to Twitter again.
Yeah, no kidding. That's my favorite home now.
Yeah. Anywho, you can find me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter. And you can follow all of us on Twitter and Facebook at Yellowwallpod. If you want to send us questions, do that via email, I think is the best way. Yellowwallpod@gmail.com. If you want to subscribe to this show, use our YouTube channel. Just hit Yellowwallpod into the thing and you'll find it on YouTube. Otherwise, the same procedure on iTunes and SoundCloud, etc. And if you want to find our written content, go to theyellowwall.net. And obviously, if you want to contribute financially, sponsor an episode, etc., go to patreon.com/theyellowwall. That's it for now. As always, everyone, thank you for listening. We will be back after the Bayern game. Goodbye.